getting ready to go on trial for a crime. An indictment will be set against you. A list of the charges against you. That's what that verse is talking about. And in no way even suggests that the law has been abolished. Having established the existence of these four beasts and identifying them from the book of Daniel, we will now turn to the book of Revelation, which continues this theme. And there's an intimate relationship between the four beasts of the book of Daniel and, of course, the stone kingdom as well, because the stone kingdom is going to be the culmination of history, the history of planet Earth as the scriptures and the historians have written it. And, of course, without prophetic knowledge of what is getting ready to happen and what is about to happen to all of the Israelite nations of the world and to the entire planet as we endure the convulsions, the Bible says that we must endure these things. We're not going to be raptured out of these things. Jesus tells us, those who overcome shall be saved, not those who sit by and watch. Those who overcome these things will be saved. I'm going to turn now to Revelation chapter 13, and we're going to now talk about the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, sea being people, nations, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. What are these 10 crowns? The 10 crowns are, in fact, the 10 nation states that emerged with the Holy Roman Empire, because as we saw from Daniel, the fourth beast of Daniel was, in fact, the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire continued in history for a much longer time after the imperial Roman days. It was succeeded by the papacy. So let's identify now these 7 beasts, the 7 beasts of this image. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. So the dragon is actually Satan. Satan is the dragon that has power over these beasts. And these 4 beasts just named are actually a reference to Daniel chapter 8, which is a restatement of the 4 beasts of Daniel chapter 2, which we just identified. So we're being told here that 4 of these beasts are part of this image of Daniel, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. And I saw one of the heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Now, the average Christian theologian assumes that this beast, and the Seventh-day Adventists and many Protestant ministers have identified one of these beasts as the Roman Empire and its continuation as Papal Rome. And it is true, Papal Rome is actually identified with one of these beasts, but it is not going to be reborn as the last beast, as most of these interpreters are telling you. The heyday of the Papal Roman system is over. It had its heyday in the days of the Great Inquisition and the killing of the Protestant saints. And it was actually succeeded by the 7th beast, as we will find out very shortly. And let's continue with verse 4 here before we get into identifying these beasts. And they worshipped the dragon, that is Satan, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, that is, Christian Israelites, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So as, according to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the entire world will be deceived by this beast in a state of great delusion about what's happening in the world. And Revelation 12:9 confirms this by telling us that this beast will deceive the whole world, and that includes the Christian world too. Paul tells us that Satan shall appear as an angel of light. All Satan has to do is dress up in rabbinical robes or dress up in priestly garb, and the sheeple sitting in the pews will not observe his behavior. They will simply believe his lies. And Jesus tells us, by their fruits shall you know them. So stop listening to their lies and start looking at what they're doing. Look at all the global warfare that's being caused by the beast system today, and the churches are utterly silent about this. They actually are worshiping the beast as we speak. We will find that these false churches are in fact the false prophet of Revelation. So who are these beasts? We're told that there are 7 heads. There are 7 heads to this beast. And we know from Daniel that 4 of these beasts are Babylon, the Medes and Persians, Greece, and Rome. But we find that John, who's given this revelation by Jesus Christ himself, John is living in the time of Rome. So if there are 5 beasts previous to Rome, then we have to go back in history and locate the first 2 beasts. And we find that the first 2 beasts are Egypt, which had a great kingdom, and that was succeeded by the Assyrians, the Assyrian kingdom. Then the Assyrians were defeated by the Babylonians, and then the Babylonians were succeeded by the Medes and Persians, and the Medes and Persians by the Greeks, and then finally the Romans. So that in John's time we know for a fact that the Roman Empire was in power. And these are the days in which he was preaching. And so let's get into the 6th beast, because this is the time during which John is preaching. Verse 9, if any man have ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. All you warmongers, take note. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. And he exerciseth all power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. What is the beast whose deadly wound was healed? That, ladies and gentlemen, is Rome. It is Rome because Rome had 2 phases. It had the first phase of imperial Rome, during which the Caesars maintained power. And after this imperial Roman Empire died of its own corruption, the seeds of the papacy were planted in the city of Rome, but it did not actually take place until much later in history. The fact is, the first pope to call himself as such was in 607 AD. There was no such thing as a bishop of bishops until 607 AD. So after the imperial Roman Empire died of its own corruption, there was a hiatus. There was a period of power, a vacuum of power, which was not filled until the papacy began to assert itself with the Crusades and establishing the Vatican, etc., etc. So as the Vatican was establishing itself and giving itself political power, that's when the Roman Empire began to become reborn. This is the beast that had the deadly wound, which was healed. So the healing of the deadly wound was the papacy arising out of the ashes of imperial Rome and asserting itself as the Vatican. Now we have a direct link between the papacy and imperial Rome. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that the Caesars were also gods in human form by their own declaration, okay? And they called themselves the high priests of Jupiter. That was their official status, and that they were known as pontiff. Pontifex Maximus is the official title of the religious office held by the Caesars of Rome. Now we have a situation in which the Vatican, the popes of the Vatican, still retain this title, Pontifex Maximus. And that's why they're called Pontiff. And that they have never renounced the office of High Priest of Jupiter. So ladies and gentlemen, your Pontiff, if you are a Catholic, is still retaining this pagan title. And if you call him Pontiff, you are acknowledging that he's the Pontifex Maximus. So this is absolute proof that the papacy is the rebirth of the sixth beast, the beast whose deadly wound was healed. Now we're going to discuss the seventh and eighth beasts, and here your Christian theologians, your mainstream Judeo-Christian theologians get utterly lost and have no conception of what is getting ready to happen because they falsely believe that Rome is going to be the last beast, but the Bible clearly says that there is going to be a seventh beast and an eighth beast. And without knowing who these beasts are, you cannot possibly understand Scripture. And if you falsely believe that the Jews are the Israelites of the Bible, you will misidentify who the beast is, and you will be worshiping the beast as if he were Christ. And we have to understand that this is a kingdom of deception. The kingdom that rules this planet is totally based on deception, lies, usury, creating false history, rewriting history to suit itself so that we are deceived about who we are. And until we understand who we are and who true Israel is, we will never understand prophecy. So let's now turn to Revelation chapter 17. In Revelation chapter 17, we are told about the seventh and eighth beasts. As I said, the vast majority of Christian theologians never even talk about these last two beasts. They will falsely tell you that the Vatican is going to be the last beast, but that's not true, folks. If you do not understand these prophecies, you will not comprehend what is going on in the world today. So let's turn to Revelation chapter 17, verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Many waters, again, being people, nations. And this great whore is, in fact, we will find out, is in fact the international banking system of Mystery Babylon, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. What's this drunk with the wine of her? That's international commerce, international banking. All of the materialistic enterprises that the nations of the earth are engaged in with the international bankers. Verse 3, So he carried me away in the spirit unto the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, as we found out in Revelation chapter 13. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stone and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of the abominations and filthiness of her fornication. We are talking about all of the international crime lords promoting abortion, sex slavery, pornography, organized crime, and of course legitimate business as well. The drug business. All of these things are the fornications of Mystery Babylon, folks. These are going on an international scale. Verse 5, And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And these are all of the wars which have been staged for Christian Israel and for the rest of the people of the planet who have been fighting these wars which are actually being staged by the international bankers. Verse 7, And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit,